And the conversation continues.
Hey, how have you been? Welcome back to Trends. Today we're with Colin Hastings, publisher of the Big Chilli. We're at Montian Tip Room at the Montian Hotel Surawong, Bangkok. And you are watching Trends. Colin, as the longest running English language print magazine in Thailand, what have you seen as trends in publishing over the past few years?
Well, there's been obviously a lot of changes. It's in an industry like all industries. There's it's constantly in flux, and we have to adapt. Use our resources to adapt to the changing scene. That's all. I mean, AI is a major factor. These tools for doing graphics, they're a major factor. And there's a lot of other issues that are going to contribute towards changing the way we publish. And if you talk about publishing, then you have to look at various options. One, newspapers, for example. Well, I don't think the newspapers have a great future, I have to say. Magazines, yes, there is a future for magazines. Of course, I'm bound to say that, but I believe it too. And there's all the other e-books and traditional publishing. I think they still have a future. We're not going to say goodbye to them. But newspapers, I think they're the ones that are mostly under the greatest threat. Really, I do think that. So we just have to adapt. And in my case, yes, I've adapted, changed the way I operate. I've changed the way that I publish. And I can see others doing the same thing, to be honest with you.
We're immersed in a digital world, and it's absolutely amazing you're still here with your bi-monthly print publication. Have you ever thought about purely going digital with the Big Chilli?
I haven't. Well, we are digital. We have all the social media platforms. But there's a good reason for that, because we're still print, because a lot of people still like the feel of a magazine. The magazines last. I mean, if you walk around some of the hospitals in Bangkok, or some of the pubs, I know one in particular, has got dozens of my magazine from 3 years ago. Talk about long-lasting advertising. And also, people like the feel of a magazine. And what we're finding is people will buy into the magazine because then they can hand it on to their clients. It's tangible and people like it. What's actually quite pleasing for me is that the reappearance, you may not know this, the reappearance soon of Thailand Tatler. It's a magazine which I'm pleased for, because I started it. I started it back in 1991, launched it, and then ran it for 7 years. I left to start Big Chilli, and that's making a reappearance after disappearing during COVID. It's coming back by the end of this year.
In print?
In print.
Oh my goodness.
So that says something about the future of the print media. There's still a future for print media. It's tangible and it's lasting. If you think about social media, the digital world, it's fleeting. It's here 1 second and gone the next. And there's so many options now for, in the digital world, so many, and there's more coming up. There's Threads, the new Twitter, whatever. There's dozens of options now. So magazines are there, they're traditional, and people like them. And so I sincerely believe that currently we're just bi-monthly, but sometime in the future, if possible, I'll go back to being monthly. And that's where, we'll be very successful, I'm sure.
Post-COVID, and your latest publication, your latest issue, I was amazed in that you're getting a lot of advertising. So it seems, has advertising come back since the COVID?
Oh, much so, very much so. We're doing much better than we did 2 years ago during COVID. Yes, things are coming back, and we're enjoying a bit of a advertising revival, thankfully.
Big Chilli is an institution, 24 years in publication. Oh my goodness. What are some of the highlight articles and stories that you've covered in those 24 years?
Well,
any stand out?
Well, I've got so many memories of articles that we've done. Obviously, we've done lots of articles on restaurants, new restaurants, hotels, restaurants that have been here and gone already. We've done hotels. I interviewed a young aspiring politician back in about 2003 by the name of Abhisit Vijayjiva. And I wrote the story and said, is this a future Prime Minister of Thailand. Well, he became a future Prime Minister. So I was quite pleased about that. The other stories we had dozens of other stories. One, we exposed a scam involving, unfortunately, a lot of expats who were scammed on a property deal in Australia. But my favourite stories of all were a series of stories when we launched our Expat Entrepreneurs in Thailand. We did a series of articles about expats who have come up with their own businesses and they've thrived and done very well with their own projects. People, I can name lots of them, but you're an entrepreneur, so these are the sort of people that I was focusing on for a long time. So we had a series of articles. We had a big event, but I'll get back to doing that in the future because I'm very pleased, always pleased to see expats doing well in Thailand. Yes.
What stories do you have upcoming in the next few issues of the Big Chilli? Can you tease us with anything?
Yeah, sure. The next issue we're doing an update on the Eastern Economic Corridor. I've spoken to the Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Chula, but that's an update on a very important project. We're doing something on the British guy who is putting together a bare knuckle fight that's involving two of Thailand's most famous kickboxers, Bua Khao and Sanchai. It's at the Royal Cliff. But there's a Brit who's behind this event. We're talking about, going back in history a bit and talking about when Bang Saray was at the centre of a very thriving fishing industry, believe it or not, and game fishing for enthusiasts. I've interviewed a guy who was here 60 years ago. He came as an American spy, and he's still here. And I'm talking about his reminiscences. And we're doing stories on 3 great golf courses in Thailand. We're doing standout rooms in hotels.
It's a real varied mix of content. So do you have pillars of content that feature in the Big Chilli?
I do. They change, but there's always a profile. There's always a business story. There's also some fun ones, some fun stories. And there's some serious news stories. Oh, which reminds me. So I'd like to plug this a little bit because what we're doing now is we're going to be behind the campaign for British pensioners in Thailand to get their pensions unfrozen by the British government. If British pensioners live in Thailand, their pensions are frozen, they never get an increase. Once they arrive here, they don't get an increase, which is unlike almost every other country where British pensioners live. So we're back in a campaign for the government to unfreeze their pensions. That's a campaign for us.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
I'm going to throw you a curveball question now.
Go ahead.
As a Brit. Is there a thriving rugby scene in Thailand?
Oh yes, and there is indeed.
Because Thais are into Muay Thai and particularly football, and I wasn't sure whether there's a scene for rugby.
Oh, very much so. And I'd like to, take a bit of an ego trip on this one because I set up the first British club rugby team.
Really? I didn't even know that when I posed the question.
Yeah, right, I did. I set it up in 1983. And from there, so many other rugby teams in Thailand have emerged. And now we have a thriving international rugby scene in Thailand. But it started with the British club's rugby team that we launched in 1983. So yes, it's very thriving. But the universities have always, the big universities, Thammasat, Chula, Ramkhamhaeng and others have always played rugby. And the sports club has always been, that's where I played my early rugby. It was at the sports club.
A good standard?
It's getting much better. And actually sizes, the size of Thais who play rugby now is rivaling the expats. In the past, they were tiny. But over time, over the last 3 or 4 decades, they've got bigger and taller. And no, they're actually quite good now. They play in all the big tournaments around Asia. And they're doing very well. Yeah, rugby's dynamic. It's great.
Colin, you're such a big personality in Thailand. Tell us something we don't know and keep it family friendly.
Oh, yes. Well, I've got a sideline. I'm building a sideline that's in supplying and selling expat foods.
Wow.
We have a list of something like 200 different products, mostly from the UK, which we sell online, We have a shop
In Bangkok?
No, in Pattaya, but we'll be selling in Bangkok in a shop shortly. I won't mention its name, but we will be doing it in a shop as well. And we do all sorts of foods and things like pies and sausage rolls that are handmade down in Pattaya.
Imported British products?
Imported British products and locally handmade pies, sausage rolls, you name it. We do all those as well. That's based down in Pattaya, actually, where these days I spend half my time.
Can people order online?
They can.
And
People are.
How do we? What is there a website or?
There will be a website, but what I'm doing is I'm going directly to people I know, saying, "Would you like?" And I send them the list of products we've got, and certain institutions are also ordering off us. The shop is down in Bang Sarai, along with a restaurant. Got a restaurant as well down there that does Thai food as well as some of these products.
Gosh, that's surprising. I wouldn't have thought a publisher moves into the food industry.
I love the food business. Let's face it, it's the most important business of all. It is. So that's maybe a bit of a surprise.
Coming back to the Big Chilli for my last question, if somebody's watching this video and they want to tune into the Big Chilli or even receive a printed copy and they're overseas, do you do international mailing, or how can they digest the Big Chilli worldwide?
Well, we're online, of course. We're online, and if anybody wants, we send the magazine overseas to certain clubs in Hong Kong, Singapore, and if people want to subscribe, if they're overseas, they just drop us a line. We tell them the cost of the mail, and then we just charge for the magazine. That's all. If they want one sent overseas, yes, we do it.
Fantastic. Colin Hastings, thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you, David.
Thank you also to the Montian Hotel for providing the venue. If you liked this interview and would like to tune into more conversation, please like and subscribe. Thank you. Hey, how have you been? Welcome back.
Welcome back, sure.
It's great to have you back.
Just see where.
Yeah, okay. You started me, stop that. Welcome back to Trends. Today we'll film that later.
We've just launched a new range of corned beef pasties. So that's, coming along nicely too. So, well, next time.
We're recording.
So you can put that in, it's okay.
We'll keep this in because even the crew are now interested in your corned beef pasties.
Corned beef pasties, and we do all sorts of pies. I actually had this morning I had a cheese and onion pie myself. I just dug it out of the freezer. It's great. Now we do Aussie pies, and we do all sorts of pies. Yeah.